Greetings delegates, the Security Council is called to order. This is an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council convened pursuant to Rule 2 of the Provisional Rules of Procedure in response to the outbreak of large-scale hostilities in the Middle East. The agenda before this council is as follows. The escalating armed conflict in the Middle East arising from the joint military operations of the United States and Israel against the Islamic Republic of Iran, which commenced on 28 February 2026. This agenda is adopted unless any delegation objects. No objections? The chair hears no objection. The agenda is thereby adopted. This council gathers today under the weight of a rapidly escalating regional conflict. In the 12 days since the initiation of hostilities, more than 1,700 lives have been lost across the region. Iran, Israel, Lebanon, and the Gulf states have all sustained casualties. 8 United States service members are among the dead. Strikes have been reported in civilian residential areas, UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and critical energy infrastructure. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil supply passes, has been threatened with closure. This council bears primary responsibility under Article 24 of the Charter of the United Nations for the maintenance of international peace and security. That responsibility is rhetorical. It is legal, it is thereby binding, and it demands action from this body today, not tomorrow. The chair calls upon the delegation to engage the session with the gravity the situation demands and with the restraint that productive deliberation requires. This is not a forum for political theatrics. People are dying while we speak. The chair will now make procedural announcements. A draft resolutions has been circulated to all the delegations as document S/2026/draft dated 2nd April 2026. The draft is before the council and is open for debate. Delegations wishing to co-sponsor the resolutions should notify the Secretariat before the close of this session. Amendments to any cooperative clause must be submitted in writing to the chair and will be introduced in the order received. Speaking time is set at 2 minutes per delegation per round. The chair will provide a 1-minute warning. Delegations seeking additional time may request it from the chair. Such requests will be granted at the chair's discretion. Points of order may be raised at any time and take precedence over all other business. A point of order is a procedural challenge only. It is not a vehicle for substantive argument. The chair will rule on points of order immediately, and that ruling is final unless the council votes to overturn it by a simple majority. Motion to suspend formal proceedings for informal consultations are in order at any time and require a simple majority. The chair anticipates that informal consultations will be necessary in this session given the complexity of the issue before us and will be receptive to such motions at appropriate moments. For this session, the council is composed of 15 members while some of the delegates are absent. For the adoption of any resolution, the affirmative votes of 9 members are required with no negative vote cast by any permanent member. An abstention by a permanent member does not constitute a veto and does not prevent adoption. The chair will now open the floor for the general debate on draft resolution S/2026 draft. Delegations are invited to address the council on the draft resolution, to propose amendments to any operative clause, and to state the delegation's position on the key issues identified by the chair. The chair requests the delegations keep their statement focused on the text before the council and on the substantive issues of the conflict in the interest of making productive use of the council's time. The council now requests the delegate of Iran, Islamic Republic of Iran, to start with their speech. Your delegate, your time begins now.
Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates, the Islamic Republic of Iran stands before this assembly at a defining moment for international peace and security. At the very foundation of the global order lies the Charter of the United Nations, which upholds the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the prohibition of the use of force. Iran remains firmly committed to these principles and calls upon all member states to do the same. Recent military actions undertaken by the United States and Israel against Iranian territory represent a grave violation of international law. These actions were conducted without authorization from the United Nations Security Council and therefore lack any legal justification. Such unilateral use of force not only undermines the sovereignty of Iran but also weakens the credibility of the international system as a whole. In response, these unlawful acts. Iran has exercised its inherent right to self-defense as recognized under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Iran's response has been measured, proportionate, and strictly aimed at protecting its territorial integrity and national security. It is essential to emphasize that Iran has not sought escalation, but rather stability and deterrence in the face of aggression. Iran categorically rejects the allegations used to justify these attacks, particularly those concerning its nuclear program. Iran has consistently maintained that its nuclear activities are peaceful in the nature and conducted within the framework of its international obligations. This conflict extends beyond a bilateral dispute. The escalation of hostilities has already had serious implications for the broader Middle East region. It has heightened regional tensions, disrupted economic stability, and placed civilian lives at risk. Continued aggression and retaliation threatens to spiral into a wider conflict with global consequences. Iran firmly believes that sustainable peace cannot be achieved through coercion, military force, or unilateral decision making. History has repeatedly demonstrated that such approaches only deepen divisions and prolong instability.
Thank you, Delegate. Next, Delegate of Israel. Your time begins now.
Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates. Iran is right before this council today to present evidence that the state of Israel is the victim of aggression acting in self-defense pursuant to Article 51 of UN Charter. Since the Islamic Revolution of Iran, the country has maintained its policy of not recognizing Israel's right to exist and providing financial support to terrorist groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, both of which have made daily suicide bombings against Israeli civilians virtually commonplace. These terrorist acts caused Israel and its citizens to be under siege from an actual and ongoing existential threat. The military operation Israel has conducted in cooperation with nations that support Israel represented legitimate and urgent response to an immediate threat to Israel's security ensured by Iran's continued development of missile delivery system capabilities and nuclear infrastructure. At the outset, Israel also wishes to address misinformation being circulated in the current crisis reports and rumors regarding the death of Benjamin Netanyahu are entirely false and baseless. And Iran with nuclear weapons would also endanger Israel's very existence as well as the entire nation-state order. Israel has repeatedly expressed concerns regarding the inadequacies and limitations of the JCPOA. Distinguished delegates, the conflict between Israel and Iran cannot be viewed or determined on the basis of religion. There is no conflict between Islam and Judaism. Even though religion is used as a reason for many of these issues, the fundamental problems are related to security, sovereignty, and survival. Nevertheless, Israel has equal respect for all religious beliefs and takes the responsibility to cover all religious sites with respect, including religious sites of worldwide importance such as the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel has absolutely no intent to escalate the issues of the past. Israel has no intent to go to war. However, Israel will defend itself against any aggressive act that threatens its very existence. Israel is still willing to participate in peace negotiations with the view of achieving peace between all sides. However, without security, there can no be peace.
Thank you, Delegate. Next, the Delegate of Iraq.
Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates. The Republic of Iran addresses this chamber today because it requires international recognition of its emergency situation, which exists when Middle Eastern nations face the threat of widespread warfare. The United States and Israel executed the first military operation against Iran on February 28th. The impact from this operation has created a situation which has destroyed everything. The current death toll stands at 1,700, which includes victims from various parts of the region. Iraq uses this flow. The Republic of Iran wants to make its position clear through its use of strong condemnation against any foreign power that uses its territory without permission to conduct their military operations. Our country exists in a dangerous situation because our extended borders with Iran allows for illegal crossings while we maintain some US military installations within our territory. Iraq functions as a nation instead of existing as a chessboard. Our government operates as a sovereign parliamentary republic. We will not permit anybody to violate our airspace and we will not permit anybody to use our territory as a base for military operations. The Council needs to comprehend that Iraq currently exists on the edge of internal collapse. We are a nation still actively healing from decades of devastating foreign interventions The government needs to handle internal security through its ongoing work which deals with various groups. The Republic of Iran requires the delegation to support operative clause 3 and 12 of the draft resolution which we currently are debating upon. Firstly, we require immediate unrestricted humanitarian access. All parties must provide complete unrestricted access to civilians who suffered from the conflict. Secondly, we require urgent relief efforts to started through immediate implementation of our second demand. Member states, together with international organizations, must deliver emergency medical assistance and temporary housing. Finally, we request the permanent members of the Council to put aside all good geopolitical interests and demand for an immediate ceasefire which should be maintained.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Saudi Arabia. Your time begins now.
Honorable Chairs and esteemed delegates, to the United Nations Security Council, as a nation that has not been involved in the conflict. Saudi Arabia's record states that it refused airspace access and territorial access for attacking forces. It publicly condemned the missile strikes at Saudi Arabia. It made numerous diplomatic attempts to impose methods of restraint on all parties to the conflict, and it expressed to all nations throughout the world that the events that were occurring were of such a magnitude that they placed the stability of the entire region and the world at risk. Saudi Arabia had done everything a sovereign or responsible nation could do to prevent this conflict, and at the end of at least 4 months of aggressive political negotiation to stop the hostilities without resorting to armed conflict, Saudi Arabia was attacked by Iran using approximately 3 dozen missiles. A country where not a shot had been fired awakened to see Iranian ballistic missile systems directing their fire to the Al-Shaiba oil field within our eastern province and towards our people. Several Muslim-majority Arab brother nations such as Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Jordan and the UAE were also targeted by Iranian missiles despite not having initiated those missile strikes. The above described actions are not resistance but rather collective punishment. The Security Council in Resolution 2817 of 2026 condemned these attacks in the strongest terms. Saudi Arabia stands fully behind the resolution and we call upon this assembly today to reinforce it. Distinguished delegates, we did not come here before this body with clean hands on one side and dirty hands on the other side. Saudi Arabia condemns civilian deaths wherever they occur. The 85 children killed at an elementary school in Minaq, Hormozgan province, Iran, we condemn that. The strikes on Iranian civilian infrastructure, we condemn that too, and at the time openly. The principle of distinction with the Geneva Convention does not have exception for powerful countries. It applies to everyone in this room and to everyone outside of it. But we also speak as the custodian of the 2 holy mosques, Mecca and Medina. The holiest ground in all of Islam lies within our borders. When some delegation framed this conflict as a religion war, as Islamic resistance, as the defense of the Ummah, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia of all nations has the standing to respond. This is not what Islam teaches. So let's extend our hand in dialogue to all the parties. We will not close our hand even now. But this assembly must act today, not next week, not after next missile strike, today. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. You've elapsed your time by 28 seconds. Proceeding to the Delegate of Qatar. Please start.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, Qatar today does not speak from the position of objectivity, but the words come from the ruins of an agreement which it took decades to build and develop. Since 28th February, when hostilities broke out, the state of Qatar, which has not fired a single bullet, has had its national energy infrastructure attacked, its airspace violated, and its citizens sheltered. The Ras Laffan complex, which is the heart of Qatar's economy and a crucial point within the international energy network, has sustained catastrophic damage. We have lost 17% of our capacity to produce liquefied natural gas, and we have had to declare force majeure under our international contracts. While the Strait of Hormuz, which carries 20% of the world's oil supplies, remains closed. Qatar strongly condemns the missile and drone strikes launched against our sovereign territory by Iran, which paid back significant goodwill, mediation and brotherhood with aggression to Qatar. Such an act of aggression is entirely unacceptable and cannot go unacknowledged. However, Qatar also strongly condemns the United States, and Israel for beginning this war while they were involved in live negotiations to establish nuclear weapons capability, and for Israel's attack on Qatari territory in September 2025, an act of blatant disregard for Qatar's sovereignty that should be remembered by this assembly. As a member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, Qatar stands with its GCC members of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, the UAE, and Oman in calling for an immediate ceasefire and for the unconditional reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. In addition to protecting all neutral sovereign nations from the impacts of a conflict that none of them decided on. We are a nation of peace. That's what we have always been. But we will not be quiet, nor will we let ourselves be the ones sacrificed. Qatar is calling for this assembly to take steps now, before the world pays a price that is too great for any of us to pay. Shukran.
Thank you, delegate. Perfect timing. Next, the delegate of Russia.
Ms. President, distinguished members of the Security Council, the Russian Federation expresses deep concern over the escalating crisis in the Middle East, which poses a serious threat to the international peace and the security. We must be clear, the use of force without exhausting diplomatic avenues contradicts the UN Charter. Article 2 Clause 4 is binding. Sovereignty and territorial integrity must be respected to all the times. We are particularly concerned by the military actions of the United States and Israel against Iran, especially in the absence of the conclusive evidence of an active nuclear weapon program as noted by the IAEA. At the same time, the ongoing cycle of retaliation includes threat to the Strait of Hormuz, risks putting the region into the wider conflict. This must stop. Mr. President, the resolution before us represents a balanced approach. The Russian Federation strongly supports an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. This is not only a political necessity, but a humanitarian obligation. We must emphasize the need for unhindered humanitarian access and the protection of these civilians in accordance with the international law. The security of the Strait of Hormuz is critical to the global stability. We call for the immediate restoration of the safe maritime navigation. On the nuclear issue, we reaffirm the central role of IAEA. Decisions must be based on the verification, not speculation. Mr. President, there is no military solution in this conflict. Diplomacy must be revived through genuine multilateral engagement. We also stress that attacks on civilian infrastructure, if confirmed, must be investigated and accountability must be ensured. In conclusion, the Russian Federation calls on all members to support this resolution in the spirit of legality, balance, and the collective responsibility. Let us choose diplomacy over escalation. Let us choose peace over conflict. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, delegate. Next, the delegate of Kuwait. Your time begins now.
Honorable Chair and respected delegates, the delegation of Kuwait recognizes that the primary responsibility of the United Nations Security Council is to maintain international peace and security. Today, the ongoing tensions between United Nations and United States, Israel and Iran have created a highly unstable and dangerous situation in the Middle East. The conflict is not limited to a single region. It threatens global security, disturbs trade, and puts millions of innocent lives at risk. Kuwait, as a nation located in the heart of this region, understands the serious consequences of conflict. Any escalation will not only affect the countries involved, but will also impact neighboring states and the wider international community. Therefore, it is essential that the Security Council takes timely and effective action. Furthermore, Kuwait stresses the need for long-term solutions. Ending immediate tension is not enough. There must be sustained efforts to promote regional dialogue, rebuild trust between nations, and create mechanisms that prevent further conflicts. This is not just the absence of war; it is presence of stability, cooperation, and mutual respect. Therefore, Kuwait supports a balanced approach, one that prioritizes diplomacy, ensures respect for international law, and allows collective action only under the authority of Security Council. In conclusion, the situation between the United States, Israel, and Iran requires careful and responsible handling. Escalation will only bring more suffering, while cooperation can lead to peace. By working together, respecting international law and focusing on dialogue, the international community can prevent further conflict and ensure stability in the region.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate of Lebanon, you can start.
Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates, the Lebanese delegation delivers its urgent message to this Council because the current situation in the region has reached its most dangerous point in recent history. The event we observe at this moment represents a complete crisis that has developed into a total breakdown of societal order because it reflects decades of missed diplomatic chances combined with ongoing international power struggles. The ongoing hostilities between United States, Israel and Iran need to be examined through their full historical context, which continues to impact present-day conflicts in that area. The rivalry between the powers has developed over periods through their indirect military clashes, which occurred in Lebanon, Syria and Iraq and other areas where both state and non-state forces engaged in ongoing cycles of violent response and increased hostilities. Our present circumstances show that violent acts now extend beyond our national borders. The state experiences extreme pressure. The airstrikes in Beirut and surrounded regions have resulted in over 570 civilian deaths. The delegates present at this meeting needs to consider these casualties. The UN Charter Article 2, Clause 4 establishes a clear rule which prohibits any nation from using military force that threatens another country's territorial integrity and political independence. The Lebanon requests the Council to operate through the united decision making that uses practical methods and future-oriented planning after its internal disputes are resolved. The following actions are required: an instant and complete ceasefire which should continue without conditions, civilian protection, and states must remain and maintain their sovereignty rights, which particularly apply to countries that suffer from spillover. Lebanon requests that you select de-escalation and dialogue and peace as your chosen path. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates. The Council will now proceed to vote on draft resolution as amended. Delegates, the voting now commences. Delegate of Iran, present and in favor. Delegate of Israel,
Present and in favor.
Delegate of Saudi Arabia,
Present and in favor.
Delegate of Qatar,
Present and in favor.
Delegate of Russian Federation,
Present in favor.
Delegate of Kuwait,
Present and
Delegate of Lebanon,
Present and in favor.
Delegate of Iraq.
Present and in favor.
Alright, so the draft resolution S 2026 draft has been adopted by 8 votes in favor, 0 against and 0 abstentions. The resolution is thereby adopted as Resolution 1 of 2026. Thank you.